After finishing his work, Yuan enthusiastically packs his bag and prepares to attend a manga convention. In his excitement, he doesn't even realize that he has crossed into another world while boarding a plane where magic and fantasies exist in reality. Seeing people use magic, he just thinks that he has entered a festival of some sort and starts to take pictures until a dragon licks his face who he thought is a mere mannequin. Yuan sulks for days wondering how he is going to survive in this world, but eventually gets hopeful realizing that he might be the main character. His daydreaming gets interrupted when a gardener approaches and asks if he is going to give the entrance exam for the Magic Academy. Seeing that he is absolutely clueless, the gardener takes him to the exam. Yuan attends the exam where he has to place his hand on a magic stone to appraise his skill. He confidently places his hand on the stone, which starts to glow with incredible white light, but much to his confusion, everyone starts laughing. The examiner clarifies that the stone needs to radiate the specific color corresponding to the appropriate magic, such as red for fire and green for wind. It turns out Yuan's magic is too weak to grant an entrance into the academy. Disappointed, Yuan returns to the gardener who offers him a job to survive. Not having any other choice, Yuan gladly accepts his offer. Days go by and Yuan's dedication to his work doesn't falter. He eventually learns how to use his magic to make plants grow. One day, he hears voices coming from the woods near him and decides to go investigate. Yuan finds two boys laying towards a girl. He tries to run away after they spot him, but they eventually catch up and bully him. Later that night, seeing that Yuan is depressed, the gardener hands Yuan a fairy seed, telling him that he found it on his travels, but was never able to make it bloom. Yuan notices that a seal has been placed on it and tries many methods to break it, but to no avail. However, one night he slices his hand and drips some blood on it. Apparently, this doesn't seem to work either. He decides to walk through the woods when he notices the same girl he saw a few days back sucking the blood of the two boys. Yuan runs for his life, but the vampire easily catches him, piercing his heart with thorns. Right at that moment, the seed erupts and a fairy, Mofei, stands over him. Yuan thinks that she might be there to help, but Mofei only came out of her seed to kill him. Mofei notices that Yuan has already died. The vampire tells Mofei to step back from her prey. Mofei cuts Yuan down from the thorns and places him on the ground. She notices that his vitality is quickly fading and decides to substitute it with the vampires. The vampire attacks Mofei, but she kills her with a single strike, healing Yuan. Yuan wakes up and notices Mofei floating in the air. He is happy that his method finally worked and thanks her for helping him. Mofei tells him not to pretend as if he doesn't know her, but Yuan has no idea who she is. Mofei gets mad and tells him that the only reason she saved him is that she wants to kill him herself. Without even giving him a chance to explain, Mofei attacks him. But no matter how many times she tries to cut him, she only ends up hurting herself. Mofei realizes that their bodies are connected together, and whatever harm comes to Yuan, it comes to her as well. Their quarrel gets interrupted when Wei Ersi, the principal of the Magic Academy, appears and tells Mofei to stop as she will only hurt herself. Mofei ignores her and tries to attack Yuan again but gets knocked back. Wei Ersi tells Yuan to ignore Mofei for now and hands him a fairy book, a manual telling him to use fairies. As soon as he grabs it, Mofei returns to her sea form inside the book. Wei Ersi takes Yuan back to the academy and explains about fairies. She tells him that if he wants the book, he will have to join the academy and help her find a vampire that's hiding there. In return, she will also give him 2 more fairy seeds. The book takes the form of Xiao, a small fairy, and enters Yuan's phone. The next day, much to everyone's surprise, Yuan attends the academy and instantly builds rivalries. A noble, who is disgusted that he is attending school with him, enters as a teacher set up a duel between him and Yuan, which Princess An Qi also arrives to see alongside her knight Luo. Yuan tries to back out, but to no avail. The fight starts and Yuan is barely able to fend off one attack when he gets transported to the spirit world. Yuan wakes up and finds himself in a barren world riddled with war where everyone was scurrying around trying to survive. He notices a sick little girl, Mofei, sitting in a corner. Not knowing what else to do, Yuan starts to take care of her, trying to break her fever. A few men appear to take her away. Knowing that they were going to harm her, Yuan grabs Mofei and tries to run away, but they catch up and start beating him up. Yuan wakes up in the academy's infirmary. Xiao informs him that he entered the spirit world during the battle and that he needs to increase the fairies' trust in him since that is directly related to their power. He tries to talk to Mofei on his phone, but just at that moment, 2 girls enter the infirmary, making Yuan quickly hide under his bed. They both start sucking the blood of other students who are lying there. Before they reach Yuan, Luo enters the room and informs them that the plan they have made will happen tonight. Yuan rushes back to his home worried that something might happen soon. He's making some ramen for himself when he notices that someone is outside his home. Acting in self-defense, Yuan opens the door and throws a wild punch, knocking the person outside. He then takes a closer look and notices unconscious An Qi lying on his porch. After she wakes up, Yuan makes her some ramen to apologize. They barely sit down when the two vampires from school burst into his home. Yuan makes a quick escape with An Qi and hides her before drawing their attention, leading them away. He summons Mo Fei to fight them, but Luo drops from the sky to face them instead. Luo kills the two vampires before getting ready to face Yuan. He tries to attack him, but Mo Fei intercepts him. They both lock into a battle, but Mo Fei is too weak to keep up with him. Yuan asks Xiao what he should do, to which she tells him that right now the only way for him to get out is by trying to build her trust by going to the spirit world, but he doesn't have much spirit energy at the moment. An Qi appears next to him, telling him that she can lend him her spirit energy in exchange for a year's supply of ramen. Yuan agrees to her demands, and An Qi uses her powers to send him to the spirit world. Yuan wakes up in the spirit world again, but a few years have gone by. He notices Mo Fei standing over the bodies of a few thugs. Yuan tries to call out to her, but she is unable to listen to him, confusing him. Xiao tells Yuan that it must mean that his soul is already in this world right now. He follows Mo Fei around as she goes to collect the money for killing the thugs from an inn. Outside the inn, much to Yuan's surprise, is a man that looks exactly like him holding a cav of the sword. Mo Fei approaches the man and asks to buy the sword, but he refuses to sell it. The next day, she notices him outside playing with kids, but quickly hides once she sees that the man is looking at her. Day after day, she notices the guy outside doing random acts of kindness. One day, she saves his life from a group of thugs who were trying to beat up a child that he was protecting. To thank her, the man hands Mo Fei his sword. Despite looking so innocent, Yuan tells Xiao that he is clearly playing with Mo Fei's feelings and is planning something mischievous. Yuan keeps trying to get Mo Fei's attention, but he is unable to do anything. The man, however, looks straight toward him and tells him that he is doing nothing wrong, as he is just leveling her up like a game, just like he does. Yuan gets mad that the man is comparing himself to him. No matter what he does, Yuan is unable to do anything as the man slowly makes his way into Mo Fei's home, getting her trust. Uni innkeeper, seeing how close Mo Fei is getting to him, warns her to be vigilant of him. Mo Fei, however, ignores him and slowly begins to change. She starts to believe the man's stories about fields of flowers and how he wants to spend his life in peace at one with her. He tells her to collect some money and to meet her at the top of the lighthouse one day so they can finally leave this hell behind. Mo Fei gets excited and starts to work twice as hard to earn money quickly. She hands all of her savings to the man and goes home to pack what little belongings she has. She reaches the lighthouse and starts to wait patiently. However, the man never shows up. In the city, because of her absence, things take a turn for the worst as thugs rampage. Days go by, but Mo Fei doesn't leave the lighthouse until one day the lighthouse gets surrounded by thugs calling her down to meet her end. Thinking that the man is in trouble, she rushes down to fight them. She notices the girl that the man once saved before being taken hostage. Mo Fei fights through everyone and manages to get her free. She embraces the girl that everything will be fine, but much to Yuan's shock, the girl stabs Mo Fei in the stomach. Not able to process what just happened to her, Mo Fei looks up and sees the man who promised to leave this hell with her, standing over her smiling. Fei looks at the man, happy to see that he isn't injured, but the reality dawns on her once she sees him standing with the thugs. The leader of the thugs steps forward, unable to believe at what they had just accomplished. Mo Fei weakly makes her way over to the man to cut him down, but the thugs grab her, pinning her to the ground. The leader tells the man that he said he was going to give Mo Fei to him, but nothing about her being alive was in their deal. Annoyed by the sudden turn of events, the man calls forth his fairies, annihilating the entire city. Even though she's not a match, Mo Fei tries to kill the man with her remaining power, but can't get past his fairies. The man offers her a choice to either accept her fate and die or become a fairy to avenge him. Mo Fei, completely driven insane from hatred, accepts his offer, and the man seals her within a fairy seed. The world fades and Yuan stands in an empty void facing the man. He tells Yuan that he just wants to take over the world just like he did after entering the world, making Yuan realize that he is on the wrong path. He tells him that it is just like a game and should indulge in it as well. The memory fades again and Yuan now stands beneath a tower of thorns on top of which Mo Fei is entangled. He notices the man's broken sword on the ground and realizes what he must do. Yuan tells Xiao that the seal has not been fully broken and Mo Fei needs to see him die to break it. Xiao warns him that it might not work, but they do not have any other choice. Yuan tries to stab himself but is unable to muster up the courage. Realizing that he is running out of time, Yuan climbs the thorn tower and aims straight at the sword below before jumping straight at it to his death. Memories start flooding back into Mo Fei's mind as she realizes that the man who betrayed her wasn't Yuan, but someone else entirely. She opens her eyes and sees him lying there on the ground with his heart pierced. Mo-Fei forces her way out of the thorns and rushes to his side, worried that he might be dead. Yuan, however, wakes up completely fine, much to her surprise. When Mo-Fei asks why he did this for her, Yuan explains that he doesn't want to be like the guy who betrayed her. Idame uses his manual to quickly exit out of the spirit world to help Mo-Fei outside. Yuan wakes just before An-Chi passes out. He puts her in a safe place, and then goes to join Mo-Fei, who is waiting for him. Mo-Fei merges herself with Yuan, giving him incredible power. Luo is completely taken aback by what just transpired. Realizing that Yuan is merged with a legendary fairy, Luo releases all of his powers to fight him. They both lock into a battle, but Luo is unable to gain the upper hand. Yuan easily blocks all his attacks before knocking him onto the ground with such force that it causes an earthquake that can be felt all the way over to the academy. Yuan separates from Mo-Fei, worried that he might have overdone it, but Mo-Fei tells him that Luo is just knocked out. Wei Ersi appears just at that moment, congratulating Yuan for taking care of the vampires and Luo. She hands him the other 2 fairy seeds as promised and tells him to keep everything that happened tonight between them as she figures out how to handle Luo. To her, it seems that Luo was after the princess, and since she escaped and went to Yuan's home, Yuan has silenced him as well. Not wanting to deal with her, Yuan takes the seeds and takes his leave, pulling Mo-Fei away from her as well. Wei Ersi looks down at unconscious Lu and smiles to herself as things just got a lot more interesting for her. The next day at the academy, Yuan is sitting in his chair, nearly dead from all the tiresome fighting that he had to do last night. He doesn't even notice when the teacher introduces their new transfer student, An-Chi, alongside her caretaker, Mo-Fei. They both introduce themselves and sit next to Yuan. He wakes up and is surprised to see them both. All the Mois in the class get jealous that he knows Mo-Fei and An-Chi. Yuan tries to clear up the misunderstanding, but they start to chase him. He barely escapes their wrath by hiding in a bush. After the coast is clear, Yuan makes his way to the library and asks the librarian to lend him books about plants. The librarian hands him a few scrolls and an encyclopedia about plants. Yuan excitedly takes them home and gets ready to use them, but Xiao tells him that scrolls will not work. She tells Yuan to feed her the encyclopedia and she can tell him what to do. After giving her the book, Yuan analyzes the fairy seeds closely and studies their seals. Knowing what he needs to do, he grows water lilies in a lake and drops 1 seed in it. For the next one, he walks a few paces away and buries it. Now it is time for him to wait patiently and let them bloom. 7 days go by and nothing happens. Meanwhile, Luo approaches his king in a castle. He bows down to him and apologizes for his failure, letting him know that the enemy had a legendary fairy that he did not anticipate. The king laughs and orders him to bring the fairy to him and kill Yuan by any means necessary. Back at the lake, the seed in the lake erupts into a giant water lily and a fairy gets up from within its bud. Yuan is worried as the seeds were twins and the other one did not bloom. The fairy screams in rage and shoots toward Yuan to kill him. Just as she gets into striking distance, the other seed blooms. The fairy stops in its tracks and quickly makes its way toward the other fairy, thinking that she's her sister, embracing her. Yuan introduces himself to them and uses Xiao to capture them. Wei Ersi calls Yuan and tells him that the Knights of Orphe, to which Luo and An-Chi belong, have started to lead the Knights aggressively and our main target is An-Chi and him since he has the power of fairies now. She tells Yuan that his presence here is a threat to the academy, so he needs to leave the academy with An-Chi. On the day Yuan leaves the town, the librarian asks him to find scrolls for her. She hands him a stone, telling him to place the scrolls on top of it, and in return, you will get rewards, which he gladly accepts. Yuan starts to travel with An-Chi and Fei alongside his 2 new fairies, Lian Shuang and Yui Tan. They reach a lake where they come face to face with a fairy dragon. The dragon threatens Yuan with a fireball, telling him to hand him of the fairies or he will kill him. Fei gets ready to fight the dragon, Giorgio's, but Yuan stops her, telling her that he wants to fight himself. Both Yuan and the dragon engage in combat. Even though Yuan kept running around, the dragon didn't seem to get the upper hand. Thinking that taking on Yuan might be too much for him, he hands him a whistle telling him to call on him when he's in trouble. At night, they arrive at Woody Lake and decide to spend the night at a resort. The 4 of them sit outside while An-Chi sleeps in her room. Yuan notices Shuan acting odd. He goes up to her and asks what's wrong, but she just acts coldly towards him, telling him that she has no idea, but she hates him. Yuan tells her that it's probably amnesia and she will remember her past, but that triggers something in Leon, making her go violent. She tries to attack him, but is knocked down. Their conversation gets interrupted when the Knights of Orphe appear to kill Yuan. Fei and Yui rush to his side while Yuan calls Giorgio's to help him. Giorgio's, however, turns on him saying that he didn't agree to help him. While the fairies fight the knights, Yuan takes on Giorgio's, driving him into the lake where his fight with him ends up uncovering a seal at the bottom of the lake. The lake fills up with spiritual energy. Meanwhile, Luo stands over An Qi in her room, watching her sleep. Yuan wakes up in a spirit world and notices the same man who tortured Mo Fei standing next to him. He doesn't get a chance to ask why he's there when he sees a girl who looks just like Shuo approaching him. Seeing that his hand is injured, she bandages it, telling him to take care of himself. Before she leaves, Yuan asks her name as she tells him that it's Lian Luo. Yuan instantly realizes that she is Xuan's sister. The man tells him that this is Xuan's memory and it's time for them to play another game. He switches places with Yuan and enters the world himself physically. Before he proceeds, the man knocks on a tree and a small dragon cub. Giorgio's falls from it, who he scares to obey his orders. He tells Giorgio's to go and find information on Leon. After a while, he returns to tell the man, informing him about her schedule and that she looks after her sick sister. The man tells Yuan to watch as he plays the game. He approaches Leon in the town one day and starts to slowly gain her trust by going with her to gather herbs for her sister and dangerous locations that put her in life-threatening situations, only to jump in at the last moment, acting like a hero. He tells her about a remedy, purity of 3 incarnations, that might help her cure her sister, but he still needs to find the last part of the ritual to heal her completely. Leon, who's by now following his every instruction blindly, agrees to do anything to cure Xuan. Yuan watches from a distance, shocked at how easily he manipulated her mind. To him, the man is pure evil and nothing more. Later that night, Yuan follows Leon to her home, where sees for the first time since coming to the spirit world people Xuan laying on a bed waiting for her sister. Every day, Leon would visit the man, completely fallen for his lies, and he would comfort her. Eventually, the man tells her that he likes her, but Leon blows an off, saying that she has to take care of Xuan. The man still insists and forces a date on her and tells her to come to a lake the next day. Seeing the abrupt change in Leon, Xuan gets curious about the man and decides to go and see for herself who he is. She dresses up like Leon and goes on the date herself. The man takes her on a boat in the middle of the lake and explains this sad reality to her. When she was young, Xuan fell into the lake and got entangled in the poison lilies, slowly killing her. However, Leon, who jumped in to save her, got something else. She is eventually going to be crippled in the future. The girl barely makes sense of what she is told before she passes out. At night, Leon enters her home and excitedly tells Xuan about the man and that she has decided to get married to him one day. Meanwhile, back at the lake, the man summons a twin lotus flower. He mockingly looks for Yuan and tells him that the final act has now begun. Outside the spirit world, Luo starts to cry as he draws his sword to kill An Qi, but is unable to do it. He apologizes to her in her sleep, saying that he is about to betray her. Before he can strike her down in her sleep, An Qi wakes up and gives him a hug, telling him that she is on an adventure with Yuan and all the friends she made. She asks if he wants to join them as well, but Luo pushes her back. Their reunion gets interrupted by the noise of intense battle outside. They both go outside and see the fairies fighting the knights. An Qi tells him to help them, but Luo draws his sword and strikes Xuan and Yui instead. An Qi is still not able to believe that Luo is fighting against her. Earlier that day, Xuan decided to follow Leon to the man. She is shocked to hear that the only way to cure her would be through consuming the blood of a dear one. What breaks her heart even more is that Leon wants to sacrifice herself to save her life, despite being tired of always taking care of her. Xuan decides to take her life with her own hands so that she always stays with her. As Leon prepares the meal, Xuan takes out a knife from underneath the pillow and approaches Leon from behind. Knowing that this has to be done, Leon doesn't utter a single word and braces herself, but the blade doesn't fall on her. She turns around and looks at Xuan, who is crying, unable to do it. She shouts at her that it is for her own good and that she doesn't want to spend a crippled life. Leon grabs the knife from Xuan and drives it into her own heart. Leon falls down. She tells Xuan that it's okay since the man will take care of her and tells her to hurry as not much time is left. Yuan is speechless, seeing everything that's happening in front of him. Xuan feebly carries Leon over to the lake where the man is waiting for her. She drops Leon at his feet and starts to cry. The man gives her one last false hope, telling her that everything is going to go back to how it used to be, and she will be with her sister forever. He tells her to carry Leon into the lake. Yuan tries to stop her from going in, but is unable to interfere with the spirit world. As soon as she gets in, the man uses magic to hand her twin lotus flower, telling Xuan that she is going to turn into a fairy, smirking at what he has just accomplished. A giant lotus flower erupts from the lake, encapsulating them both and forming a bud. However, Leon's bud fails to fully form. The man looks at Yuan, telling him that this is the end of the story. Yuan tries to beat him, but is no match compared to his strength. He easily beats Yuan to a pulp, telling him that it is all a game and he doesn't have to get so worked up over it, since there is no way he can save them. Yuan wakes up in the spirit world again, this time physically present. He jumps with excitement that it's now his turn to play the game. The man is spirit form tells Yuan that if he fails to save them both, you'll be stuck here forever and his friends outside will die. Yuan accepts the challenge and gets ready as Leon approaches him to bandage his arm. Yuan starts off just like the man but decides to go directly to Xuan and explains to her the remedy that will take the life of her sister. Xuan just laughs, telling him that Leon told her about him, a man who loves to tell stories. She tells him that he does not need to worry as she will never harm her sister, making him lose all his worries. She invites him over to have dinner with her and Leon that night. He and Leon take a bite of their food and instantly fall unconscious, when Yuan wakes up and notices that both the sisters are gone. Realizing that Xuan drugged them, he rushes toward the lake to stop Xuan from getting into the lake, but he is too late. The man laughs at how naive Yuan's attempt was. Yuan tells him to give him another go as he is sure he can help them now. The man agrees to give him one final chance. Yuan wakes up and the cycle begins again. This time he follows every step that the man did till a night Leon kills herself. Just as she is about to do it, Yuan bursts into her home and tells her to stop as there are still things she can enjoy in life despite being crippled, and begs her not to throw her life away. Leon drops the knife and braces her sister, crying. Seeing them safe makes Yuan happy. However, the world starts to fade away. The man congratulates him for saving them but tells him that this is just a memory and he cannot change the past. Yuan falls to his knees and starts to cry when he hears Xuan's voice. He looks up and sees Xuan standing next to him. She thanks him for trying to help her and tells him that despite being unable to change the past, she can still change her future. A portal appears in front of them and Xuan pushes Yuan into it, sending him back to the real world. Georgios also jumps in with Yuan, pledging his loyalty to him. Georgios shoots out of the lake with Yuan sitting on top of him. He lays her on Chi and puts her on top of Georgios, telling him to protect him at all costs. Yuan turns his attention to the knights and Luo as Xuan merges with him, giving him the ability to manipulate power. The knights try to fight him themselves but are no match for him. Yuan easily freezes them all in their place, including Luo, who eventually breaks out of it. Luo uses his secret technique to keep up with Yuan, as he merges with Mofei as well. No matter how much he tries, Luo fails to fend himself against Yuan's attacks and eventually gets knocked onto his back. Before Yuan can finish him off, An-Chi steps in front of Luo to stop him. She tells Luo to stop bothering as Yuan can easily kill him. Yuan separates from Mofei and Xuan and apologizes for going overboard. Luo, completely defeated now, gets up and starts to leave, telling An-Chi that they will meet some other day. A giant twinning lotus flower blooms from within the lake. Xuan apologizes to Yuan, telling him that the flower took her sister's life, so she must guard it for now. Yuan has no objection to her decision and tells her to do as she pleases. Yuan leaves with An-Chi, Mofei, and Yuli, riding on top of Georgios. After a while, An-Chi hands Yuan another fairy seeds, saying that Xuan gave it to her before leaving.